Welcome back. Let's look at what's happening on the African continent now, or the rest of the African continent, because we are also in Africa. Well, the government of Ghana will hold formal talks with the International Monetary Fund on a support package. Now, previously, Ghana had refused to seek IMF support to rescue the country's battling economy that was battered by the economy like other parts of the world. There's rampant inflation, as well as a depreciating local currency. Despite analysts warning it is close to a debt crisis. Let's speak about this. We're joined by the Director of News Programming at Citi TV, that's in Accra, in Ghana, Bernardino Koku Avle. Bernardino, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Newzroom Afrika. What has now brought on this change of heart from Ghana when there was a previous insistence that it wasn't looking to the IMF for help?
Thank you for the question. I think the case with Ghana is that reality has kicked in. Foreign investors are bearish on Ghana, and without international market access, an IMF program was inevitable. Some people said this to the government as far back as February. The government tried to raise domestic revenue through a very unpopular e-levy, but we are told that it raised less than 20% of what was expected, and with the international markets closed and with domestic revenue not meeting the needed target, Ghana's balance of payment problems are in a very bad situation. So essentially, we've gone to the IMF for two reasons: to try and restore some credibility with the markets so we can get more money, and also to get some money from the IMF to help correct our balance of payment problems.
And how much would Ghana need, basically, to set itself on a different path to these economic struggles?
Well, the hint we have of that is that the finance minister had announced to Parliament that he was trying to raise up to $1.5 billion through two syndicated loans, one from the Afri-Exim Bank and the other from a number of banks, including two based in South Africa. So that gives a sense of about $1.5 billion. But if you look at the numbers closely, Ghana would need a lot more than that, because our currency has depreciated by more than 20% between January and now. The central bank's stock of dollars is now around 3.7 months of import cover. So if you look at the fact that during COVID we got a billion from the IMF through their RCF, it may be anything above 2 billion. So northwards of 1.5 billion, if you ask some analysts.
There had been anger in Ghana. People, in fact, have been protesting over rising inflation. Has the news that the government is now considering, or is in fact going to hold discussions with the International Monetary Fund, calmed people who were angry at its handling of the economic situation?
Oh no, it's made things worse. Mind you, the Minister of Finance is not really a fan of a bailout from IMF. So although he understands the markets very well, his rhetoric leading up to this has been that going to the IMF is not good for Ghana. A lot of senior government officials have said this as well. And in fact, the government pitched the IMF as an alternative to the very unpopular e-levy. So for the government to now say, you will still pay for e-levy, but you will go to IMF, some people see it as a betrayal. So today, the Trade Union Congress issued a statement saying that going to the IMF for a bailout was a grave mistake. People are agitated. Civil society groups are meeting today to hold a press conference. So the short answer is people are not happy. They feel betrayed. And they feel that with the history of Ghana's 17 appearances at the IMF, it's been painful because they do restructuring, they don't increase salaries. The IMF policies are notoriously austere. So the streets are not very happy with the decision by the government.
But how viable, how long is the list of alternatives for Ghana, given that it's in such a tight corner?
Great question. So I think the challenge that complicates Ghana's problem is the difficulties it faces with raising domestic revenue. As you know, for most developing countries, a lot of our revenue is from informal, indirect taxes, like petroleum taxes. And these taxes tend to be regressive in nature. The long-term solution is to find a better way of getting more direct taxes, like property taxes. Obviously, Ghana needs to diversify its economy because we still export raw materials, gold and cocoa. And so there isn't any short-term solution, but because of the history of the IMF in Ghana, the very difficult structural adjustments in the 80s, it's not a very popular decision. But if you go into the numbers, it looks like the sensible thing to do at this point.
So if there's public anger on the street, the government is now trying to quell that by approaching the IMF, and you say it's further infuriated the likes of the trade unions. What are the likely political implications, I wonder, for the government of President Akufo-Addo?
So, two things. Because some of the overspending, the so-called fiscal slippages have been caused by the grandiose plans of this president. So, for example, he has a very expensive free secondary school program, which takes a chunk of his budget. He also has a number of programs he calls the flagship programs, helping industrialization, helping with dams and irrigation. These things are good for the economy, but they cost a lot of money. So it looks like he's trying to do too much too soon. Number two, he has a very big size of government. If you ask me, what will appease Ghanaians is if he starts making visible cuts. So reduce the size of his government, remove some of his political appointees. If government becomes lean and mean, people will take a cue and accept the bitter pill for now. So it takes a lot of austere decisions from the side of government first. There's a major controversy about a national cathedral that's being built and money that was spent from government coffers, although that was we promised that wasn't going to happen. So I think that the government needs to take the lead by cutting back on some of its overambitious programs and then cutting down the size of government. I think those are the two things that will appease the public if they are to go with this very unpopular program.
Political leadership, of course, cements itself not only on the vote of the people, but patronage as well is a key factor. So if the president were to make those changes and even cut, say, to the size of the government, would that not bring, in fact, a faster set of political repercussions or consequences for him personally, career-wise?
So, a couple of things. The president is almost like a lame duck because he's run out of his 2 terms. The real person who will be affected by all of this is his vice president, who is the forerunner in their party's primaries. And he's been decidedly quiet about all these very difficult economic decisions because the implications for his candidature are very dire. But the point to note is that the president has been quoted many times. During his inauguration in 2017, he said he is working for the next generation and not for the next election. Beautiful rhetoric. So people are saying, put your money where your mouth is. So you have to deal with the patronage if we are to take your word for it. So yes, cutting government size will definitely influence that negative economy of political patronage, but that's what he promised Ghanaians. And from the look of things and from the mood of the nation, he has to begin to deliver on that. Otherwise, it's going to make things very complicated for what many people consider to be his chosen successor. Mind you, Ghana's elections are very close. The opposition party candidate had already said that the government should go for the IMF program and also sack the finance minister and dismiss the vice president as the leader of the economic management team. Right. So already the gloves are off, and it's going to look very, very interesting politically in the next few weeks.
Bernardino, Koku, Avle, good to speak to you from Ghana's capital, Accra.